Well, good morning, afternoon, evening, depending where you are in the world. You've just been listening to the UCLA Marching Band as we've been getting started. If you haven't seen me before or met me before, my name is Fiona Reese, and I have the privilege of overseeing our international admission process at UCLA. So it is my hearty congratulations to all of you. This has been another record year for UCLA. We had nearly 109,000 freshman applications, and we have got another amazing international class and an overall class that's coming in. We are not going to spend too much time talking because as you know, the purpose of today's panel is to hear from some student experts. I am joined by many of my colleagues on the international team. They're working tech support, although you will see a few of them as we go through the presentation. Before we get too far, though, we'd like to know who's joining us. So we're going to go ahead and ask you a poll. You'll see at the bottom you have, there'll be a poll feature that will be getting started right now. We just want to know where everybody's joining us from. So if you could take a couple minutes just to fill that out, that would be fantastic. You will also see at the bottom you have a Q&A section. And so we would ask that you go ahead and submit your questions throughout. We will be keeping a tally of them. And then we will go ahead and once we get to the Q&A portion, which will be about half an hour actually, 20 to 30 minutes, towards the end, we will go ahead and ask those questions to our panelists because we know that you want to hear from real live breathing students. So it looks like most of the people are finishing up. So looks like we've got a bulk of the attendees coming from Asia. Not too surprising that North and South America, given the time of the day and the day of the week, is a little bit less. But we're thrilled to have everybody joining us. So thank you very much. With that, I am going to stop talking and I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues, Danica and Travis. And then we have, as I said, some real life breathing students for you to hear from. So Danica, over to you.
Thank you, Fiona, and congratulations, new Bruins. We're excited to have you here with us today. My name is Danica Pierce, and I'm an Assistant Director of Undergraduate Admission here at UCLA. I'm going to act as the moderator for the beginning portion of this webinar, and so I'm going to jump right in with a few questions to ask our panelists. If I could have all of the students unmute yourselves and turn on the videos. Terrific, thank you. So for the very first question to begin with, can you share with us your name, major, year, as well as what high school, country, and city you are from?
Hi, everyone. So my name is Kedar. I'm a second-year computer science major, and I'm from Muscat in Oman, where I attended an IB school here called ABA.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisette. I'm a fourth-year international student from Dominican Republic. I went to high school over there, and my major is international development, and I'm minoring in French.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mariam. I'm a second-year student from Cairo. I'm studying economics and public affairs, and my high school in Cairo was MLS, like Mixed Language Schools.
Hi, my name is Sirith. I'm a second year from Toronto, Canada. I'm studying molecular biology.
Hi, I'm Christine. I'm a second year poli-sci student with a double minor in Korean and Global Studies, and I'm from Singapore. The high school that I went to in Singapore is called River Valley High School. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. Yeah.
Thank you all so much for sharing. We're gonna talk next about what the experience was like when you were in high school and you were looking for a university. How did you ultimately decide UCLA was the best fit for you?
When I was in high school, I mostly looked at universities like locally and in the US. And honestly, UCLA was a bit of a last minute decision. And the way in which I decided was kind of since I couldn't come to look at the university, I mostly did research about it. And then also hearing from other students like through their vlogs and stuff like that also helped a lot because it gave me like an idea of what the experience was like.
Um, I'm like, just to be like honest, I'm not really sure what I was looking for in a university before I came. Um, I was looking through like university pages and everything like that, but I decided UCLA was like the best fit when I checked its like economics major page. Before, when I applied, I didn't know public affairs was a major, and then I just really agreed with everything that was said on the pages, and I was like, yeah, this seems like a good decision.
So for me, I was really location driven. So I wanted a university that, had the resources of a city while still having like the college experience. So Westwood was perfect when I looked it up, when I came to visit, it just fit that. And that was just solidified by the fact that UCLA had like a wide range of academic opportunities. So for me, like I didn't definitively know what I was going to do when I came in. So it's the fact that UCLA had so many opportunities in like every single department to me really made that decision clear.
So for me personally, I've always known that I wanted to study overseas, and I applied to a lot of schools, both in the UK as well as here. And what kind of made me choose UCLA is really the clubs that are available. So I want to get into like the international development sector. So looking at like student organizations where I felt like I could have meaningful conversations with like-minded people was very important to me. So I looked at UCLA's like club pages, and I saw clubs that I was very interested in. And also the fact that UCLA offers a lot of minors. So before I came in, I saw that there was a food studies minor and a Southeast Asian studies minor. And I just thought that that flexibility and the choices was really fun and attractive. So that's why I chose UCLA.
For me, back in high school, I was looking for a university that had like a breadth of opportunities available, both like academically and in terms of like extracurriculars. And UCLA definitely like it ticked all my boxes. I was interested in doing research as well, and UCLA is reputed as like a very one of the best like research universities. And then for me, I came and I visited a bunch of universities in America, and just coming to UCLA, being um, on campus in Westwood, it was like I definitely felt like at home there, and that's why I ended up going.
I think you all just explained UCLA in so many different ways, but that's really what the university is all about when it comes down to it, is all of these different opportunities that are available, which clearly helped you in guiding onto your way towards university here in the States. So next, I want to focus a little bit more on the academic side and talk about how you decided on your major or majors or minor or minors, as I know there's a lot of different ways that each of you have gone about your academic studies. And then additionally, how have you supplemented your academics through research or maybe different clubs or organizations on campus?
For my major, I mostly decided about it by talking about people who know me and like are very close to me, as well as doing a lot of reflection about what I think I'm personally good at and what I personally like and see myself like something I see myself doing for the rest of my life. Although that's like not necessarily the case in a lot of cases. I've supplemented that. I'm just recently enrolled in a research project about, this is somewhere in between public affairs and economics. It's about US economic soft power through the Middle East and stuff like that. And then there are a lot of opportunities to take part in research if you just search through the library databases or something. And then I'm also in the public affairs undergraduate club. So
So for me, like I said, I came in not exactly knowing what specific major I wanted to do. So I came in as a biochem major, but then through taking classes and I guess research, I realized that I really wanted to do molecular bio instead. So I switched, but I have been working in a neurochemistry lab since freshman year, and that to me like really solidified my decision to like have my major be molecular bio. So I think on top of the classes that UCLA offers and like the professors that you can talk to and the TAs that you can talk to, you can really see like where you want to go versus just I guess choosing in high school, because sometimes it's a little hard because like bio in high school is just biology, but here there's so many different like subsections and interests that you can get involved with. So that's that. And for research, UCLA is great. Like I joined research as a first year, which for a lot of my friends at different universities, they didn't even have the opportunity until their second year or their third year. I also am a part of like the student panel for the life sciences course. So that's the answer.
So for me, I actually came into UCLA undeclared, which is quite rare for Singaporean students. I think for internationals in general, it's pretty rare to come in undeclared because it's not really a concept that we have back home. But I always kind of knew that I wanted to do social sciences, and it was between political science and anthropology. So in my first year, in my first quarter, actually, I took some classes in both departments and just got a feel for the majors. And eventually, I felt that political science was a lot more kind of my thing. So I went into it, and previously I kind of mentioned that I want to be in an international career. So that's how kind of the global studies minor came in. And I've always been very like interested in Korean. I've been a fan of like the pop culture, the politics for a very long time. So I just saw that college was like the perfect chance for me to pursue that interest. And I'm personally a very firm believer in having your undergrad be something that you love and like having a lot of fun with it. And that's kind of why like I've created this hodgepodge of majors and minors. And I actually found out that UCLA actually is one of the best, like has one of the best Korean programs in the country or like in the world. So I was really happy that I managed to get into the department. Extracurricular wise, so I recently started being a research assistant for two of my professors on two different like political science projects. I wrote an independent research paper last quarter as a part of an internship course. I'm also currently interning with an NGO, and I'm part of two United Nations-based clubs. So one is United Nations Association at UCLA, and the other one is UNICEF at UCLA. So in those clubs, we really talk about like the United Nations, international stuff, yeah, stuff like that. So that's what I do.
Yeah, so for me, I knew that I wanted to do computer science coming in just because like technology is just growing and it's a good field to be in, especially in this day and age and especially in the future. But after coming here, I discovered, and I knew that I wanted to do a minor because I've always been like quite, creative in nature, and obviously computer science is very technical. So I wanted to balance that with something that was more non-technical, which is why I picked up a digital humanities minor. And it's been really good because it's digital humanities is such an interdisciplinary minor because you're working with tech and non-tech, and you're working with different people. And I've actually got into research through it, and I've employed both my skills that I learned in digital humanities and in computer science to do like a large scale research on like huge documents of like Native American texts and like analyzing different themes throughout history, and um, and even through CS as well. There are so many opportunities for research. Every professor is doing amazing research, and just the opportunity to just be in all these different classes, and you can have the ability to talk with professors, especially during office hours, about their research. And if you're interested, you can uh, you can like ask them to join their lab, and most of the times they're really willing because there's no shortage to what like new minds can bring to everything. So
Hi, I guess for me, I came in as a business economics major, and after taking some classes, I realized I wanted like a more like interdisciplinary major. So I did research and I attended like some workshops and info sessions, and I decided to switch my major to international development. And as a requirement, we have to learn a like second language, and that's how I was led into my French minor. I studied French in high school, and I thought it was really like a really cool language, and it was similar to my language. And I also wanted to learn more because it would be helpful if I wanted an international career. And I guess supplementing, I haven't done research on a specific like lab or work. I've mostly done research through courses from my major, and I think like it's been a good opportunity to do it that way, with working close with like a professor and also like getting analyzed through that lens. And since they're all, most of them are experts on the field, that also helped. And then through academics, I did most of my clubs as kind of like extracurricular activities that were mostly for fun. And through academics, I mostly got supplemented by events that were supplied by the International Institute, where I got to meet like experts on the field and learn about their careers and interact with them. And then that led me to like opportunities back home as well.
You all are very busy and are also just definite proof that nobody goes through UCLA in the same path. There are different academic involvements, whether you want to do a double major, whether you want to add on minors to just expand your interests in a field similar to your own or maybe completely different. So I applaud you for what you've been able to accomplish during your time so far at UCLA. And moving on to the next question, it's more about the extracurriculars that you've been involved in. Could you expand about that and that involvement in the UCLA community throughout your years at UCLA?
So I guess the first thing that happens during week 0 is that you go to the activities fair, and it's crazy. Like, so many people are there. There's so many different activities. Like, I was definitely overwhelmed, and I didn't know, because I feel like as a person you have a lot of interest, but then you also are able to like explore areas that you never saw yourself going into, and that's really what I think came from me. Like, outside of academics, was doing things that I never saw myself doing. It through that I learned what my interests were outside of academia. So like I said before, I do work in a neurochemistry lab, and I have been for like a year and a half. So that's like a major part, a chunk of my time. But I also was able to get involved with Bruin Shelter, which is like a homeless shelter run by UCLA students for students experiencing homelessness in the greater Los Angeles area. And then through that, I learned that I was really passionate about public health and homelessness. So I ended up joining the Venice Family Clinic, which is run by UCLA Health, and it provides mobile clinic to people experiencing homelessness in Los Angeles. I also joined the UC Women's Leadership Conference, which is like a group of amazing people who put on an annual conference empowering women across the UC system. So that for me was something that I guess I never really saw myself doing, because a lot of the majors, I guess, that were seen to be in that that leadership group were business, econ, public affairs, and I was a sub major, but I found a community there. And I also work as an international ambassador for Canada for the Dasher Center.
So similar to Sarat, I'm an international ambassador as well, but I'm from Singapore. And I kind of mentioned the clubs that I'm in right now, United Nations Association and UNICEF at UCLA. So United Nations Association is very much about like career progression. We have panels, we talk to professors and professionals in the field to try to get a better feel of like the industry for us. And also we have what else? Oh, we do like advocacy events to try and raise awareness about like the sustainable development goals, as well as like the United Nations. UNICEF is kind of where I found a lot of fulfillment in college, because we actually do community service at UNICEF. So every Sunday, or like every other Sunday, I go down to this homeless transition shelter in downtown LA. And our focus is like kind of engaging the children and encouraging them to like continue their education, to be passionate about like school, and like also really playing with them, having them do arts and crafts and everything. I always knew that I wanted to do community service coming into college, but as an international student, it was very intimidating because I felt I didn't know anything about like the needs of the community. I don't know where I can help. Am I really in a position to help? But UCLA actually has like a really, like, they have a lot of different community service organizations, and I decided to join one of them, which was aligned to my passions and interests in more ways than one, and I found it to be very fulfilling. I'm also part of the Singaporean Students Association at UCLA, so that's just kind of like, it's a home away from home, and we meet up like once a quarter, have like a fun little event. Like, we've gone skiing together. We often like meet up to like eat like Korean barbecue in K-Town, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm also like sporadically kind of involved in like other things, like to my friends' events, and like learning more about the community, learning more about UCLA, learning more about America. So yeah.
Yeah, so for me, one of the great things about UCLA, you probably have heard this, but like there's so many different organizations and clubs, and you can pretty much do anything there. which is why when I first came in, I was really passionate about like teaching and especially like teaching like programming to students and stuff. And there's this large organization called ACM, which is the biggest computer science organization on campus. And one of their subgroups is Teach LA, and what we do is we go out to like local high schools and middle schools, and we teach students coding and programming, just give them the necessary skills for like today's world. And then from that, the great thing about UCLA is if you don't find a club for you, you can create your own. Which is why I was actually on the founding board of like a couple of clubs, and I'm actually starting my new one later this fall. So, for example, I was on the founding board for the AI Robotics Ethics Society, and we basically focus on like making sure that AI is created responsibly and ethically, and like spreading awareness about the importance of like ethical AI. It's a very interdisciplinary club, a lot of philosophy, computer science. We have like conferences, talks with people from industry, and it's been a very fulfilling role. And the other club I'm part of is DIPD, which is Diversity and Inclusion in Product and Data. And what we do is we provide a platform for people underrepresented in tech, and give them opportunities, give them access to industry, give them knowledge, regardless of their background, and basically like how to like succeed and do well in the technology sector. And the club that I'm actually starting up is a tech consulting club that is focused on helping nonprofits and basically helping to connect student developers, because at UCLA there are so many people who are creating their own apps, people who just love coding, and then there are so many groups out there that don't have the necessary resources to build their own infrastructures. So what we want to do is just connect these students to these like organizations, and help them help each other like build solutions to like just create like more positive, bigger positive impact on like in the community.
In terms of like clubs and like being involved with a community at UCLA, I feel like I've gone through a variety of things in the 4 years since I've had, like how Siraj said, there's the enormous activity fairs, and it's like an incredible amount of clubs, and I feel like there's something out there for everyone. So based on like service activities and community service, I got involved in 2 community service clubs in which we tutored and mentored underprivileged children around the greater Los Angeles area. And that was very like a fulfilling experience. And I guess it led me to want to volunteer in a club run by one of our ambassadors where it's like a student-based language club in which like you teach languages. And I've been teaching Spanish there. And I guess in terms of like more experimenting like with things that I've been interested in but never got the chance to do before, I joined a dance club, and then also like it led me to become a part of a project team in which we like dance, and like it was a combination of like dancing and like cultural experience. So we wanted to kind of show a bit of like Latin American culture like through dance and like advocate more. And also like I joined the Latin American Student Organization, which kind of gave me like a little home away from home in the way that Christine said, because there was not like necessarily a Dominican club at UCLA because there's not a big community, but I still felt like joining a organization that represented a greater part of my identity was like really important to me. And then I've done like several programs for like DASHU. So aside from being an international student ambassador, I'm also a coordinator for a program called Global Siblings. And it gave me a lot of experience and like skills in the sense that it led me to like have better communication and learn more about budgeting and event planning and management and those things, while also like it's been a part of like my experience in UCLA because I've been in it for 4 years.
Well, as you all have said, there's a lot of organizations at UCLA. So other than like the academic kind, like the Luskin Undergraduate Student Association, which is a public affairs club, I've mostly joined organizations for a sense of community. And my first year, I went through IWA, which is like an Arab women organization. It did build like a starting sense of community. And then in my second year, I signed up for the VASHU Ambassador program, and that helped me realize that I really do like advocacy positions and helping plan things and making it just a better place for international students, making UCLA just more just a better organization for international students. So I joined student government, USAC, under the International Student Representative Office, where I'm the co-director of advocacy. And we try to plan events and stuff like that to help bring the community together, as well as generally just look at things we want to see more of. And I've also, as Kadar had said, it's really easy to start your own organization. So through the people I knew and met, we've formed, I've helped co-found an Egyptian Students Association, but we're still working on making that more active, but it's going.
What I really love the most is just how passionate you each are about the different involvements, whether it is something about volunteering, or if you're maybe joining something about community related to back home. You can really see when you talk about the different clubs and organizations, your face just light up, each one of you. And so I really appreciate that perspective that you give about the campus, because that's something that really makes UCLA unique. It's just the vast amount of opportunities that students can get involved in all sorts of different disciplines. So next we're going to move on to a poll to actually gauge the audience's interest in a few different questions. So I'm going to launch the poll right now, and for the attendees, here you will be able to select one of these questions for our panelists to view. And it doesn't look like it's going through. So let me try this one more time. There we go. I'll give you a little bit of time because I know there are a number of questions here to read. It looks like we're about half in so far. And I also encourage all attendees to continue to use the question and answer box. We are going to be addressing those questions after we complete this portion of the panel. And if you do have any questions specific to any of the students on the panel, maybe depending on their major or their involvements, you can also add their name to direct the question to one of the panelists themselves. All right, I'll give a few more seconds here. And I'm going to close the poll and share with you all the results. And the question that we have, number one, is about the academic life on campus. And so we will go ahead and ask that question. So for our student panelists, can you describe what academic life is like on campus? Do you think that it is very competitive in nature? And then what are some academic resources that are available on campus that you have utilized?
I think it's pretty competitive just by the nature of UCLA being a really good school. So you get a lot of people who are very, very capable coming in and being a part of your cohort, being a part of your class, and it gets very overwhelming at first. And I think for international students, there's that added kind of complexity with having to adapt to like a whole new environment, because so that could kind of add to like the academic stress as well. But at the same time, I find that UCLA is a very warm and encouraging environment. So I mean, like, it's at least for the social sciences, the experience of most of my peers is that if we ever have any difficulties approaching a teaching assistant, which is like a graduate student who helps with classes, who's like hired to basically kind of like co-teach in a sense, like a class with a professor, or just like approaching your professors, talking to your friends in class, like they're always very willing to help. Like I've heard of other schools where like it's so competitive that like people are hiding notes from each other or like giving fake notes out. Like I heard that from like some other schools, but for UCLA, that's never been the case. It's a very encouraging environment. And something that's kind of like hard when it comes to college, I feel, is like planning your 4 years. And definitely the college academic counseling or like the different department offices are very great resources for help in that.
So yeah, for I would say that for like engineering is quite rigorous at UCLA, and it is competitive in nature just because um, the way that classes work is that most classes are curved. So like a certain proportion of students, only a certain proportion of students can get like an A or a B or a C. So, but it isn't competitive in nature where everyone's trying to like do better than everyone else or like trying to bring people down. Um, which is really good, and I really enjoy like the sense of community that a lot of students have, especially when they're going through like tough classes together. um, some resources that are like really useful, especially for engineering. There are certain honor societies on campus for engineering, for computer science, such as UPE or Tau Beta Pi, that host like different like tutoring sessions. They host like uh, midterm reviews and like their own like tutoring hours for different subjects and for different classes. So you can just like go in, there's a student or there's some other person like waiting or like present there and will like answer any questions for you. This is a very useful resource. Office hours as well with professors or with TAs are like honestly the best. Um, if you're having trouble, like you shouldn't be expected to do everything yourself, and you shouldn't try to do everything yourself just because there are so many resources that can help you excel.
I agree with what Kedar and Christine have said. Like, it's competitive, but like there is a like sense of community in it. And then I also agree, like office hours are a really great resource, and most of the times I don't think I've had a problem with like a TA or a professor like not being like helpful or encouraging. I feel like mostly like they work hard on that, and like it's part of like that UCLA experience as well. And in terms of like social sciences, there's a lot of like writing involved, and personally like research papers and things like that, and also writing like academic papers on like a different language was like kind of something that you have to adjust to as an international student. And UCLA has a writing center, and they're very helpful. And then also like in terms of like doing research and learning how to go through like databases and utilizing like the resources properly, I found that like workshops done by the libraries, and also like we have like a click lab, those are also very helpful.
I agree with what everyone has been saying. Also, like the writing center, office hours, there's also past exams as resources. Some classes tend to be more competitive than other classes, I would add. And just overall, if you find that any class is getting a little hard or something, there's a lot of resources to help you, even if those resources are just your fellow students. Like there's the class of 2023, 24 Facebook page. You can just post on it that you want a group chat for whatever class you're signing up to be in, and a lot of people will eventually reply, and that's just a very good community for you to want to ask questions to or anything like that. And yeah, there's a lot of resources on campus.
So to echo what everyone has been saying, like it is definitely rigorous, and classes do vary. So I know like a big concern for a lot of people coming in, especially STEM majors, is like the amount of kids that are in one lecture. But I found that while lecture might be a lot of students, there's a lot of ways that professors and TAs make it so that you do get that one-on-one interaction. So for example, there will be a lecture, and then there'll be like discussion section where there's around like 20 students and a TA who is so helpful and is willing to go through practice problems, answer any questions. You get to talk to people like your peers, and you're just not just listening. There's also learning assistants, which are students who sign up to help in courses that they've previously taken. So there's a sense of community where everyone is trying to make it for you and make your experience the best that it can possibly be. And I guess like what Miriam said, to me, this has been such a good experience, like with classes going online. The fact that everyone in these huge classes is willing to be on a group chat and willing to like respond at any time of the day and be helping each other just really defines what academia is at UCLA.
What a great way to put it. Thank you all for sharing again. We are actually going to move on to the question and answer questions that our attendees have been sharing. There are quite a number in there. So I am going to now turn over to my colleague, Travis Fuller, who is going to be moderating the next portion of this panel.
All right, hello folks. As Danica mentioned, my name is Travis Fuller. I work in, obviously, I'm an assistant director here in undergraduate admissions, and I'm our international representative to India. I'm also an alum of UCLA, so I can certainly empathize with the sense of accomplishment you must be feeling, and you should be very proud of yourselves. It was a very competitive class. So we're going to be going into some questions here that our panelists will respond to. One question that I wanted to address, just an overall theme. There was one regarding housing. I understand that there are 3 types of dorms on campus. Do freshmen choose whichever they want? Also, if you could just expand on housing in general, learning communities, and your experience living there during however long you lived in a dorm and residence hall.
Maybe I can start because I actually lived in a living learning community last year in my freshman year. So I'm in my second year once again, and I was in the dorms. I'm back home right now. And I think there's more than 3 types of housing. There are the suites, the plazas, and the plazas are like, there's like a lot of different housing. The housing application, we basically kind of just indicate your preferences, and you can look for descriptions of the different housing types online. They obviously differ in price, with the cheapest being the classics halls, which are like rooms with like, you always have in your freshman year, you always are in triples, so you have 2 other roommates, and then the classics are basically just the 3 of you guys, no AC, and you have a communal bathroom. So the living learning community I was in was called the Public Service and Community Engagement Living Learning Community. So what LLCs basically are they bring together people who have common interests, because in your housing application, you can indicate if you want to be a part of LLC. So that was really great for me because I was instantly able to connect with a lot of people on my floor, and we grew really, really close to the point where a couple of us actually moved to a different building and a different floor altogether, because like we just enjoyed each other's company so much. There's no guarantee that you will get your first choice, obviously, because like there are, I don't really know how this system works, but like you might not get your first choice. My housing wasn't my first choice, but I was really happy to end up in there.
Does anyone else want to add an additional response?
So I lived in the dorms my freshman year. I lived in a plaza, which is basically, like Christine said, it's triple. So there's 3 people in one room, but there's also the bathroom included in the AC. So I did not live in a learning community, but I did find that my sense of community at UCLA was created initially on my floor. So you do have resident assistants who are UCLA students, and they're usually like in their 3rd and 4th year. So you do have that resource readily available for you for any questions. It can be about like LA, missing home, academics even. And so I found that I made most of my friends on my floor because we had all these like event programming that would happen. So like we went to the Getty Museum all together. We went to a football game together. And so that's like the perfect way if you don't know anyone to make friends right off the bat. And I live with those friends now even. So my second year, I actually moved out, but I lived in the university apartments. So they're basically like apartments but owned by the university. So you have a lot more flexibility in the types of rooms you want, if you want to live like in a single or a double or a triple.
Okay, we'll move on to the next question then. So a popular one that's kind of been percolating is just involving your transition to UCLA as an international student, and what you felt was most beneficial in kind of encouraging that transition and making you feel comfortable in Los Angeles and at UCLA specifically.
I can go.
Thanks,
I
Miriam.
found that think I found that my transition was kind of like bumpy. The first time you arrive, like it's pretty much as they say, you're kind of distracted. You don't really feel any kind of homesickness. And then as time goes on, you get like a little bit more homesick. So I found that joining communities and talking to people, even like just hearing your native language and watching movies online or whatever is just very comforting. And then also, especially touring around the area, Westwood is very interesting. There's a lot of stuff to do around UCLA and in UCLA. So the more I got out and started exploring in the area, the more it felt like home. So that would just be my personal recommendation. If you struggle with that, just go out and find places that you like in the area and stuff like that.
Yeah, so for me, it wasn't, I think I transitioned quite like well into UCLA just because one, I had like two communities, I would say. Like I had an international community of friends as well that like from that I actually like met like going through there. Like once I went to international orientation, I met a bunch of people. And orientation is like the first point where you actually like meet people and you're all experiencing this new place together. And it's a great experience because you're all like together facing like this like the unknowingness of like this new environment. And then further on from that, like once classes and everything started, the best way to like get used to everything, I would say, is join clubs, join organizations, just meet more people, because that way you get more comfortable and you can basically condense UCLA into a smaller place, because it can be quite daunting because we have a huge student population, thousands and thousands of students, and it's good to just go out, go early, join clubs that or like organizations that you're interested in, and it really makes everything smaller, and you can really make a home away from home.
I guess for me, it's a bit of like what Kedar said too. I joined like DASHU program, and they pair you with like another student. So that kind of like helped me like not only like make a friend in that student that I paired in, and like my sibling, as the program called it. Like I met her friends also, and then she was also from the Los Angeles area, so I got to know the community like through her as well. And then I got lucky in my floor. It was pretty small for a dorm. So instead of being like usual size, it was like half size. So it was a lot easier to like meet the other students who were also mostly freshmen. And I feel like the RA also like made a really good job of like planning events for us and like encouraging that like sense of community. And like that really helped a lot from like adjustment, because we also like had events that we would go to and like visited the beach and like got to know the area through that.
Perfect, thank you. Something else I would also add that I hear from a lot of international students is, or something that they appreciate about being at UCLA, is that we're simply in Los Angeles and you do have access to a lot of diverse communities where you feel comfortable even outside of UCLA. So that's another thing that you'll have access to in your transition. And there was two topics that were briefly referenced in these last two questions that I just want to add an addition on. For housing, we have a webinar on Monday if you want to learn more about how that process works. And then we have a webinar on orientation on Thursday. So you can access more information via those. The next question, there's been a lot of inquiries about research. So if any of you could kind of elaborate further on the research opportunities that you've pursued or had access to at UCLA, that'd be great.
So for me personally, most people will get research through labs, and labs is both for STEM and for non-STEM. So one of like our common friends, Sagarika, she's in our international ambassador. She's actually in like a social science lab. But for me personally, I approached my professors directly because I didn't really know how to find it through the labs and through the research portal, not gonna lie. So I just went to their office hours, can talk to them, explain my interest in the topic, the topic of the class, and like also my interest in their research. So before you approach professors for research, it's very important that you understand what they're actually doing, because they might not be teaching classes in the specific area that they are specializing in. So for one of the professors that I'm helping, his interest is actually in war and conflict, but he's teaching a class about globalization. They are not entirely separate as topics, but they are kind of like far. So I went to his like website. Most professors have like really nice websites all like ready with their CVs and everything. So I just went there, took a look at the projects that he's doing, and I just went to his office hours, had a really long chat about my interest in the course, and also just kind of slipped in like, hey, are you looking for like a research assistant by any chance? I really want to get into it and understand academic studying. And I was very fortunate that one of the first few professors that I approached actually kind of offered me the job. I say it with quotes because I'm not actually getting paid, but it's been a lot of fun. I'm learning a lot of like skills as well as knowledge about a very specific topic. Yeah.
I can go next. So I came in knowing that I wanted to do research. So freshman year fall quarter, I didn't really have, I guess, the confidence to go up to my professor and ask. But that's definitely a good way, is to professors are super passionate about what they do, and they're willing to like share it to you. So you just have to go to office hours and start a conversation, and they will tell you what they're interested in, and hopefully you can find maybe interests that parallel theirs, and they can help you with a project that might not exactly be theirs, but like an independent research project. But for me, I actually found the lab I work in through my department. So they are, when you probably go to orientation, they'll have you sign up for departmental emails. And that's when your department sends out opportunities that happen to pass like their desk. And so for me, that's how I applied. And it was actually in the School of Medicine rather than undergraduate. So I wouldn't ever have met my professor through one of my classes. And I went in for an interview and I started, and I think that really defined my freshman year, is because in these classes you're learning these topics and they're large and you just can't seem like they apply for you. For me, it felt hard to like apply a lot of these things. And when I went to my lab, my professor would literally ask me to do it. Like he would be like, create the space. And so I was able to apply something that I was learning at like 8 a.m. in my lab every single day. I also know that if you are interested in clinical research, I just started clinical research. That process is kind of similar, but it's again, like you probably won't meet these professors in your classes just because they tend to work in, you know, like graduate schools. So like they teach like the School of Medicine or like the neuroscience graduate students. But do keep a lookout on the undergraduate research portal, because they definitely do post frequently on there, and also on your department's emails or your department's website.
Okay, thank you. Another thing I would add is just with regard to research, UCLA is one of the largest research institutions in the world, and it's great having access to those experiences, especially if you have aspirations for graduate school and things like that. You can certainly leverage not only the research, but also your relationships with professors when you're applying. So we have an abundance of opportunities here in regard to that. A question that just came up, and I know again we kind of have gone over this a little bit, but I was wondering about your folks' experience with undergrad class size and your ability to access those classes, as well as just academic flexibility, if any of you have any pertinent experience with regard to double majoring, double minoring, what your life has been like, I guess, I suppose, in academics. If you could expand upon that further.
I guess like in terms of academics, class size in the beginning, like introductory courses are pretty big, and but also they have discussions, so that gives you an opportunity to be able to like more like localize your knowledge and like learn more directly and one-on-one from like a TA. And also like there are office hours and resources like that. I feel like in terms of like getting into classes, for me it was a bit hard just because I I'm in an interdisciplinary major, so that means I take classes from various departments. And sometimes like classes from other departments like will fill up faster than others. So that was kind of a struggle, but I guess like in terms of like class size and stuff like that, like it's something that you have to get accustomed to because high school classes won't be the same size as UCLA classes, and the discussion and office hours really help out.
Something I
Does
kind of
anyone
want
else?
to,
Oh, thank
sorry, like I look at the Q&A every so often. I see a lot of people are asking about getting into the classes that you want. So to be very honest, especially when you're first year and even when you're in your second year, it's gonna be hard getting into your first choice classes. The whole enrollment process is not complicated, but it's hard. It's like a very long thing to describe, so I'm not gonna go into it. But I think it's a common experience for most colleges actually that first you struggle to get into your top choice classes. So it's really about being flexible with the kinds of classes that you might be interested in. And also at UCLA, you actually have to take like a diverse range of classes because you have to do general education. So that's actually a really good opportunity to explore maybe like a film class that you might have been interested in doing, or maybe look at history, or if you're a social science person like me, maybe learn like a little bit about chemistry if you're interested in that. So I think so being flexible is very important. About like my personal experiences, well, like honestly, when you go to the college academic counseling, they do a really good job in helping you kind of frame your 4 years from like a very macro perspective. So they help to plan your classes. They give you recommendations on how to plan your classes in a way that maximizes your opportunity to learn. So I think that's a really good resource to tap on to for like academic planning in general.
This is just to add on. I think I saw this question in the panel, but a lot of people were asking if they could pursue research topics outside of their major. You definitely can. Your major does not have to align with your research interests. So, for example, I took a GE that was Asian American women, and she was looking for someone to help her write her a paper on a topic for an article, and I'm not an Asian American studies minor or a major, and I ended up helping her on that. So you're more than like they're more than happy to accommodate to your interests beyond just your major.
And were any of you involved in are any of you involved in the honors program at UCLA? Can anyone add any comments about that? Or all right, there were several questions pertaining to the honors program, but I guess we
I
don't
know
have any.
some stuff. I have friends in the honors program. Um, it's kind of it's pretty hard work, not gonna lie, because you have to keep your GPA above like a certain level, and there are like extra classes, but these people generally they do have like a pretty fulfilling life. So I think honors is definitely something that if you're interested, you should pursue. Personally, I'm planning to do a department honors, which is honors offered per department and it differs. So for political science, we don't have a course that specifically lets us write like a long research paper, but you get to do that as a part of the honors program. It's like more work, like I said earlier, but you get a lot more out of it, and you also get more intimate contact with intimate's a weird word, but like you get closer contact with like professors, which honestly is great.
So I was admitted to the honors college when I entered, but I didn't continue with it. But I do think that it might be a great opportunity to explore. But for me, I know that you're required to take a certain number of honors courses in order to like maintain your standing. But a lot of my STEM classes weren't offered as honors. And like freshman year, since you're just trying to get into classes, sometimes it's hard to like be able to place yourself in the class and like have it work out with your schedule. So.
Great. Thanks, panel. You guys are awesome. I'm going to hand it back off to Danica, and she has an additional question for you.
Thank you, Travis, and thank you all of our attendees who have voiced their questions. We do have a few more that are in the Q&As, but we are getting to those as I speak, so you should be hearing responses. So to close up, the very last question that we would like to ask all of the panelists is, what is one piece of advice that you have for students still deciding where they want to attend college or university?
So what I would say is really think about your like fit and like what you want from a college. UCLA definitely has a lot of good opportunities, and you can do a lot with a UCLA degree, but it might not be the best fit for you, especially if you're looking for like maybe you're looking for like a small college, or maybe you want to be somewhere else location wise. So definitely weigh up all the factors, all the pros and cons, because this is an important decision to make.
I'd say I agree with Kedar. I feel like it's like about like the fit for you, and I think a good way to do that is like I said, what I did originally was like look at the experience of people like online and like search for like blogs and my student testimonials and that sort of stuff. And I also think like checking out like the club's website and all of that would like give you a sense of like what the experience would be like, and like the things that are would be offered for you there, and then there you can make a better judgment of like whether it's like a good fit for you or not.
I agree with both Lisette and Kadar. Basically what I did is just research a lot. So look through the majors you wanted to pursue, look through everything that's on the website itself. Even just the UCLA general website, there's a lot of stuff to see. There's a page for student organizations, so you can see if you're interested in any of those. And just personally, I would recommend just collecting information and seeing if you feel comfortable moving forward.
So I guess I completely agree with everyone. I would say try to keep an open mind and have a holistic approach to deciding, because I feel like we sometimes are really bogged down on like one aspect that we see, but really do consider that you're going to be living there for 4 years. So you want to take into account everything, like your social life, extracurriculars, academics, whether you feel like LA is the place for you. Because I think sometimes we overlook things, and had I had the opportunity to go back, I would still choose UCLA, but I would have considered a lot of these questions early on.
I would definitely echo everything that has been said. I think you guys basically said everything. But if I were to kind of put another consideration, is probably location. So everyone else has kind of mentioned it. Is LA the place that you want to be? Also, kind of, I guess, look at the recreational activities that are available for you nearby, because school, like college is college. We're here to study, but like at the end of the day, kind of like what Sarat said, like we are living in a whole new environment, and it's very important that you have things that are like comfortable for you or like make you feel more at home. So like if I were to like market LA a little bit more, especially if you're Asian and like you crave like good Asian food, LA has really good Korean food and like Japanese food and like Chinese food. So for me, every time like I get really stressed out about like an exam or a project, it always helps to just hop on an Uber with my friends and to go to like a little area that's really close to UCLA, and we just grab like really good food to feel a little warmer and feel a little bit more comforted inside. So definitely consider those.
Great food on and off campus, right?
Yes, food on campus is great.
Can definitely vouch for both options. Of course, going to K-Town, getting some great food as well. So thank you all for sharing and giving some advice to the students. And thank you as well for the attendees. I know that we're running a little bit over, but realistically, thank you for everyone all around, for those who have joined us today to learn more about UCLA, but also for our panelists and just sharing their perspectives. You can see a lot of similarities between the 5 panelists that we have, but also a lot of differences of how they've experienced UCLA and how they've navigated the university. I'm going to turn over to Fiona, who will be explaining a little bit in terms of just wrapping up and providing some contact information for you all.
Great. Well, thank you very much to our panelists. I will give you a round of applause, and hopefully everyone else's as well. You guys have been phenomenal. Danica, if you don't mind pulling up the next couple of slides. And for our panelists, you are welcome to take a break and drop off camera for a minute or two. So as a couple quick reminders, as Travis said, there are a lot of different ways that you can connect with us. This is our individual email that will come straight to our office. I know there were a number of questions that came in related to IB credit, A-level credit, Indian exams. We tried to get to those, but again, please feel free to email us. Also, make sure that you are connecting with us. There are a number of events that will be taking place on Facebook to encourage your parents as well. Same thing on Instagram. There's Q&As, various chats. If you're in China, we do also have a WeChat account where we're pushing out articles. We know that it's a little bit harder to get onto Facebook and Instagram. So Danica, if you want to go to the next slide as well. And this is also a great way to connect with our student ambassadors. If you go to this particular website, it will list all of the ambassadors that DashU has and their country. So you can reach out to the individuals who you've heard from today. You can also reach out to other individuals based on your major, based on your country. It's just another really great way for you to connect with students who are sort of living your experience or will be living your experience. Next slide, please. And we've mentioned the various webinars. You can go on to the Bruin Bound site and you will see that it is constantly being updated. Some of them are very specific webinars. Some of them are going to be more Q&A. So again, please make sure that you're checking them out. You'll see that almost every day throughout the month of April, we have got events. So we wanted to get out ahead of you for international students, which is why we were a little bit on the front end, knowing that all of these are coming. So you will have more than ample opportunity to get your questions answered and really learn from the experts in those departments, in those areas, as well as individual schools, dependent on what you are in. And then the final slide is really to say congratulations again. You can't hear it enough. We know from reading your applications that you have got amazing resources. You are amazing students and you're going to have really, really good choices. So please don't hesitate to be in contact with us if you have specific questions about UCLA. We really do hope that we're going to get to see you here on campus. And Danica has sent out, I think, a couple slides, a couple links for you as well, so that you can make sure that you access those directly. But thank you. I know aware that we're a little bit over, but again, have a great day, good morning, good evening, good night to you, depending on where you are. And we hope to see you on campus in the fall. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.